Welcome back. Something that I definitely wanted to talk about was the fact that I believe the 20th of December 2025 will be a notable date in the history of professional wrestling. Now, I'm sure people will be wondering why if they don't know what's happening on that date. Well, on that day in Pittsburgh at what I believe is called WrestleVerse Fest, the icon, the franchise Sting, will make what is scheduled to be his very last public appearance of its kind in his signature face paint. I know some people, this will just be to them the story of a now retired because he had his last match in March of last year. A 66-year-old former wrestler deciding no longer wearing the face paint is the direction that he wants to go in. But obviously for many people, myself included, those who have watched him since the late 1980s as I have and are a big fan of his, this is a very significant date as it's also another kind of a step forward following his retirement match, really into retirement. Because giving up the face paint for someone like Sting is a major occurrence. Now, there are a lot of different parts as well of how or why this is a major event. I'm only going to stick to 3 or 4 of the bits that I feel are going to be worth talking about in this video. The first being, of course, that Sting has had a career of over 40 years, and for the vast majority of that time he has worn face paint in various different colours and designs over the years, but he has been wearing the paint for pretty much all of his career. As everyone knows, it goes back to his team with Jim Hellwig, the Blade Runners. Both men obviously carried on the face paint into different characters and personas over the years. So he has spent many decades wearing the face paint, and it has been one of the signature things. They always talk about a wrestler having something that is identifiable only to them. Well, for Sting, in the various different face paint designs and colours, you look at one of the designs and you know who it is. He's also, of course, a major star, having been around the business and been one of the biggest parts of one of the biggest eras of professional wrestling, the Monday Night Wars, the Attitude Era, call it what you will. But of course, again in WCW, he was a absolutely major star there, facing off against the NWO, being with the Wolfpack, Hollywood Hogan, Starrcade, all of that whole storyline of WCW in the late 1990s, and even actually since then, because weirdly next March it will be 25 years since the end of WCW, and kind of sadly as a fan I kind of viewed him as a bit of a lonely wanderer over the past 25 years. He's gone to various companies, of course, like TNA, WWE, most recently AEW, but he sadly never had that stature being the face of the company like he was in WCW. So, saying that though, he is still a huge star in multiple Hall of Fames, one of the most liked and respected wrestlers there is, whether it be by his peers or especially by his fans. So definitely this is a major occurrence because he is a major star. The next one is, of course, that the fact of he is a very private individual. As I said, it's been 25 years since WCW ended, and at times he would wander away from professional wrestling and would take time out, especially right after WCW ended. he disappeared for a while, made an appearance, but there has been periods, including especially the last couple of years, where he's been in and out of wrestling. And even though he doesn't do a great deal of interviews and, real in-depth things, he has done, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but he's a very private individual. He very much values his time in for his with his friends, with his family, with his church. We all know that he's got very strong beliefs. So this is a major occurrence as well, because he's stepping into retirement and he's laying down the burden. He's not killing the character off. Sting has not been laid to rest yet, but this, after his retirement, is another kind of laying the burden down, stepping away from certainly the active part of being Sting. It is another step from retirement in the ring, and now not wearing the face paint and probably the gear for public appearances, if he makes any. That is definitely a major part of it. That kind of comes to, I guess, 3A, let's call it, or 3B, whatever it is the fact that this isn't actually also something that's just been announced out of the blue. In fact, if you look at his social media since it was announced late last year, he has been on a kind of Cena-esque tour, where he has been making a lot of different appearances throughout the year, and it's especially, for example, a couple of weeks ago, it was his last time in the face paint in Texas, in October, I believe it was. It was the last UK appearance when he was in Edinburgh, Scotland, for a convention. That was the last time that he was making an appearance in the UK in the face paint, and part of this is me kind of reading between the lines a little bit. I don't think it's too much though, between the lines, that part of another reason why this is a major occurrence is because it definitely seems like any public appearances, certainly in conventions or shows or anything like that, going forward, even without the face paint, it seems like it might be exceedingly rare going forward. Again, another part of it is, and I know I'm trying to keep to only a few parts, but it all kind of leads in the direction of he's an intelligent man. And what really tips me off about the fact that, okay, he's not maybe going to appear at many of these conventions or anything in the future. Firstly, it's been a very busy year for him, far more busier than I think in years past. Certainly in the last 10 years, he started making a few appearances after the Seth Rollins buckle bomb incident. But talking of that, actually, I met him in 2015, just a few months after that, when he did a few UK dates for Inside the Ropes. And it was fantastic. Meet and greet. Me and my brother couldn't help but take that opportunity to meet him. He wore, for the meet and greet section of the show anyway, or the experience, he wore his face paint, some kind of ring kind of gearish, and a big red kind of almost Sergeant Pepper kind of coat thing. And he knows that that is how fans want to meet him, and that's again another reason why it kind of tips me off that maybe we'll not see him make very many public appearances, if at all, because he knows that people will want to meet him like that. Especially if you haven't met him before, not that if you ran into him out in the street somewhere, I don't know how he is about, if you ask him for a photo or anything, I don't know what he's like with that kind of thing, but even just to shake his hand and say hi, I don't know what he's like that, but you wouldn't mind running into him in the street, but ideally for a big fan, you would want to kind of meet him in the face paint and the gear and all that kind of thing. And so that's another reason why I think he knows that a lot of people want to see him in the face paint and want to meet him. Again, if he does any convention or anything in the future, then again he won't be doing it in the face paint. It's still a great opportunity to meet the man himself, which is something that, especially again, big fan, if you haven't met him before, then it's definitely an opportunity, or even if you have, it's a great opportunity that you should take advantage of, even again without the face paint. But people like him know that's the experience the fans want, is him in the kind of similar gear to the wrestling stuff, wearing the face paint, etc. That's the experience that a lot of fans want and would pay to see. So again, that's one of the main reasons why I think not only is he retiring the face paint, but I think he may very well vastly be retiring from these kind of public appearances anyway. Just with a few of the comments on the social media platforms, it's giving me that, certainly that idea. So this is definitely going to be a major occurrence on December 20th. All of those kind of parts to it, and I'll get to what the future is in a moment, but definitely with all those, I feel December 20th, and just for a few hours, which I believe it's 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., which is kind of typical. I know there's probably some of the conventions and appearances he's done throughout the year that he's stayed longer because there's so obviously it's Sting. As again, he is so much popular. He's so popular. He's so respected. He's so loved that loads of fans will want to meet him, get a picture with him, autograph, whatever it is. I'm sure there've been appearances where he stayed for several hours, maybe more than he initially planned to, because of a bigger crowd for him. But certainly, this is going to be a definitive end to the signature look of Sting in any design. He's done a couple of appearances in the NWO Wolfpack stuff. He never did go back to the Surfer Sting, which I think he ruled that out a couple of years ago. Even just like a convention appearance or anything like that, just wearing some neon kind of outfit I would have loved to have seen. He's been far kind of old man Sting, as it's been called lately, with the big white beard and the hair and stuff. But definitely, this is going to be, especially for fans like myself who are huge fans of him, definitely going to be a major occurrence on the 20th of December in Pittsburgh. Talking of the future, obviously we know, I say that a bit too much, but we do know that he is still under contract apparently to AEW. In terms of appearances, I believe it may be around about August, his last appearance on AEW TV, where he came to the rescue of his former partner, Darby Allin. I would not rule out, and I think we are pretty safe to assume, that when he does appear on AEW TV or pay-per-view or whatever it is, that he will still wear the face paint and whatever kind of resembling the ring gear that he chooses to wear at the time. So he'll still appear. Again, he's not completely putting Sting to rest. Steve Warden has not decided, right, Sting is gone, close the lid on Sting and never be him again. It's not the case. And I don't foresee him either. Again, like the Inside the Ropes thing, he's done a few interviews over the years. He doesn't do those kind of talking shows, and I don't believe he will do those kind of things very much either. Again, he kind of values his time away from the spotlight and away from wrestling, so I think that's kind of the direction he wants to head in. And we certainly will not see him, although again, maybe a few appearances on AEW TV, pay-per-views, etc. I firmly believe we will not see a similar situation to The Undertaker, where after decades of protecting his character so fiercely, The Undertaker is pretty much Mark Calloway now. Whether it be on his podcasts, on WWE appearances, telling Triple H he's going in to the Hall of Fame, or whatever it is that he does, he's basically, the line is blurred, if it even still exists, between The Undertaker and Mark Calloway. For Sting, again, being a very private individual, I don't see him doing that kind of thing. I think there'll still be that dividing line if and when he does appear for the likes of AEW. So he's not going to say goodbye completely. Yes, there's a definite chance that he might do some public appearances in the future, any conventions, shows, etc. I don't know how open he is to doing stuff like that. Again, 66 years old, he might have decided now is the time to kind of walk away a little bit more, although again, he's kind of been part-time for the last 25 years. What I kind of also am a little bit disappointed in this is that it doesn't seem to me, although I've seen footage of him, which was actually taken, I think, by the convention itself, him leaving the appearance in Edinburgh, wearing the face paint. I don't believe that there's any kind of production or anything being done, even by like an AEW crew, of following him while he's making these last appearances in the face paint. Personally, I would have loved to see even some like small documentary thing done about him and his face paint history and stuff like that. I know there's a little bit on a TNA DVD about it, but as well, say because of the circumstances, very limited in what they can show, and it's only like a couple of minutes long. As I've noticed again on YouTube earlier on, people put up these kind of things, but certainly I would have loved to see kind of some kind of documentary about him, kind of quote unquote hanging up the face paint, stopping wearing it, and him going through a few last appearances and last experiences for the fans wearing the face paint. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be anything that's happening, which is a little bit sad. I don't want to leave it on a sad note, so what I will say is that what I think is really good is that, and I'm not talking against any independent place or promotion or convention or anything like that, and I'm not advocating for Wrestleverse Fest because I really don't know the company at all. But what I'm kind of glad of this, it seems to be a pretty decently sized convention where he is wearing the face paint for the very last time. I don't also expect for there to be any ceremonial, here's a bowl of water and a face cloth and wipe off the face paint for the very last time in such a circumstance happening. But what I am glad of is that, especially as I personally, as I said, I grew up watching him in WCW. He was very big part of that company, and I will always see him as a WCW guy. If he was standing in front of me, or could look at a picture of him now, and somebody asked me, right, what's the one company you associate with him? I'll always say WCW. Even again, it's 25 years next March that company was bought out and ended. For me, it ended on that night of Nitro, probably more actually accurately about the weekend before it, but certainly publicly, that last Nitro, I know I believe there was a Thunder on the Saturday night or something afterwards, because I think it was pre-tape stuff, maybe, but definitely it ended that night of the last WCW Monday Nitro in 2001. But definitely Sting is going to be surrounded by a few friends from WCW at this convention, which is, I'm glad that this last appearance in the face paint, if it ends up being the very last one in face paint, which I don't know him personally, obviously, but from what I've gathered, what I've heard about how people talk to him, his former colleagues and stuff like that, he seems to be a very sincere gentleman, so I believe he will keep to his word. Again, AEW and anything like that aside, and he may make a public appearance or two for AEW. They don't have a WrestleMania type thing, where it's like a meet and greet and sign stuff with a lot of their people, I don't believe. So he might appear at one or two of those, maybe in the face paint, depending on the contract that he has with them. It might be contractual obligations that he has to, but certainly out with that, I'm glad that he is definitely going to be with a few friends at this last appearance. Again, I identify him always as a WCW guy, and there will be people like Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Lex Luger, Kevin Nash, and the Steiner brothers, at least, all big former WCW superstars that will be at the convention. Again, I don't foresee any proper kind of ceremonial, here's a bowl of water, face cloth, and take off the face paint for the very last time. I would definitely say, as my final thought though, I would definitely hope that there'll be some type of acknowledgement either on the day or immediately after either by the convention itself or especially on Sting's own social media posts. Obviously, it's not him that's doing it, but whoever it is, hopefully there'll be somebody there with him. Maybe I don't know what his handler or kind of assistant situation is. I know he's got his wife up there often. I don't know who does the social media stuff for him, but definitely I would love to see some acknowledgement that his last appearance under the face paint has happened. Definitely got to be a couple of posts on social media. I'm sure if I look, though, I don't know whether there probably isn't any. I don't know whether there's any official hashtags for any of this. Sting's last face paint or whatever it is. I don't know. I might look that up. I'm sure there'll be some posts from fans that meet him on the day. Again, he's only there limited hours, which seems to be the kind of way that it's been for some of these appearances. But certainly, I would hope to see some posts officially by the convention or on his own social media post or pages that actually just clarify or signify the date, what's happening, what the just commemorates that this day, the December 20th of 2025, has been his very last day of public appearances wearing the signature face paint. So definitely for me, as a huge fan of Sting, it's a very sad day. It's another kind of, again, laying the burden of Sting down, another step towards retirement. He is obviously always going to be one of those wrestlers that's going to always be around. He has pretty much an open invitation for any show, pretty much. Certainly, probably not WWE because of his AEW contract, but definitely any independent show. If he was, here in Scotland and in Perth or Dundee, I know the local promotion that I go to, I'm sure they would welcome him with open arms if he happened to be in the area and saw a poster or some kind of notice for the show and decided you'll go and say hi to somebody or people, whatever, even just as himself. Sure, open invitation. I'm sure, he could pretty much walk into anywhere, from all across the United States to Australia to Japan, certainly Pro Wrestling Noah and the Great Muta. He was about, definitely. So again, that's why, as well, I think one of the major reasons why it is such a major event is because he is so well liked, so well respected. So it is definitely going to be sad a little bit once December 20th has happened, and it will certainly be for the most part, very much the end of Sting in his face paint era.